All right, happening now. We have exclusive reporting from CNN's team on the ground in Syria just days after the fall of the Assad regime. Loud explosions rocked Damascus overnight, plumes of smoke hanging over the city. CNN's Clarissa Ward, one of the few Western journalists on the ground in the region. Clarissa is with me now. Communications have been tough. We have you. Please just tell me where you are, what's behind you.
So, John, we are actually here in one of several garages belonging to Bashar al-Assad. We are on the compound of the presidential palace, and you can see this is a man who had expensive tastes. We've seen Aston Martins, we've got Lamborghinis, we've got Ferraris. I want to add as well that we've been walking through this compound. There are many garages. We were just in a lot where there were dozens and dozens of armored cars, if you can believe that. I don't know how anyone would need so many armored cars. And I'm bringing you over here because you can see this collection of classic cars over here. And the reason this is all significant, John, the reason that we're talking about this, that we're showing you this, is because really this is indicative of the deep, deep corruption of the Assad regime, which is a big part of why this whole uprising started in the first place back in 2011. Bashar al-Assad had been ruling for some years, his father for many decades before, and the levels of corruption and greed, the opulence and the lavish lifestyle, when so many Syrians were struggling to put food on the table. You imagine, John, the last 14 years Syrians have been under bombardment. They've been tortured, maimed, kidnapped, killed. And meanwhile, Bashar al-Assad was living literally like a king, with garages full of cars, with palaces, with incredible mosaics and marble. And we actually watched in the presidential palace some ordinary people who managed to sneak in, walking around with their jaws dropped. They could not believe how he was living at a time when Syria was suffering so acutely. And so this really is a metaphor for the root of the rot, for where it all started and what it really means, the spirit of this Syrian uprising. Obviously, we're not going to sugarcoat it. There is a lot of anxiety in this moment. There is a lot of anxiety about the makeup of rebel forces, about whether there will be chaos, whether there will be strict Islamic law. And so it's not that everybody is out in the streets celebrating, but most Syrians are united in finding these displays of wealth and opulence truly sickening and indicative of the sickness of the Assad regime, John.
Clarissa, you can add my jaw to the list of those that have dropped at these images behind you, these rows and rows of luxury cars, given what's happened in Syria. Also, I guess my surprise that days after the Assad regime fell, that they're still there and in one piece. So explain to me the state of civil society in Damascus right now. Is there law and order?
Right now there is. There was half a day when Assad first fell, where there was looting in the streets. It was quite chaotic. Then you had more rebel forces from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham coming down from the north with orders to really secure the capital. And they're the ones who are in charge of this entire complex. They are not letting anybody in and out. I believe we're some of the few who have managed to get in here, and they have taken pains again and again to keep telling us that the cars have not been touched, that the cars will not be moved, that the cars will not be stolen, because they see their lack of corruption as being a badge of honor and a real contrast to the behavior of the regime. There was in the presidential palace in parts evidence that in those initial hours or that first day after Assad fell, that people had come in and ransacked the palace. But again, the rebels were really stressing to us, this wasn't our group, we don't do this. Now, I will say one small detail that I found interesting, John. When we went into the palace, the rebels who were guarding it would not talk to me or look at me until I put my scarf on. And so as much as they are making these moves and saying things such as, you know, people can wear what they want, this is a pluralistic society, we respect the rights of minorities, you do still have absolutely extremely conservative tendencies from the majority of these rebel forces who are now controlling much of this country, John.
And that has been one of the major questions. Islamic fundamentalism, what role will it play among the people who may rule this country going forward? Clarissa Ward, we're so lucky to have you there in front of these cars, symbolic of what has happened in Syria for the last several decades, symbolic of what is happening at this very moment that you were allowed in to show people these pictures. Thank you for the work you and your team are doing. Please keep us posted.